I have to ask you, because I think this is of particular relevance to your experience. The New York Times is up with a new piece. It's a long piece comparing what we're learning in terms of obstruction in the Mar-a-Lago case with the obstruction that was detailed in the Mueller report. And I'll read you some excerpts from it. John Bolton in the piece calls Trump's approach obstruction as a way of life, and that the lead investigator in the Mueller investigation, Andrew Goldstein, says the superseding indictment in Mar-a-Lago, the one that we got yesterday, is a clearer example of criminality than what we found in the Mueller case, and it makes it easier to show criminal intent. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little hard because obviously I know all of the details with respect to the Mueller investigation, and we only have the indictment, so we have to wait a lot more, sort of meat on the bones. But there's nothing more classic than somebody saying, let's destroy evidence when there's a pending subpoena.
Yeah.
But in terms of, I think, John Bolton's comment about this being a way of life, I mean, that is the through line. You have obstruction. Just take the former president's comments to Don McGahn, the then White House counsel, which is, I need you to create a fake document saying something that's not true. And he was basically, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. Zelensky, what the former president was doing there was basically saying, I need you to gin up a fraud investigation because I'm going to use that to defraud the American people and say there's a pending investigation with respect to Joe Biden. We're talking now about an indictment with two, not one, but two schemes to obstruct justice. And we're about to see a charge by Jack Smith for obstruction on a much larger scale. It is not going to be just getting rid of documents or lying to the government. It is going to be an obstruction of Congress overthrowing the will of the people. So if you look at this as sort of all of these different types of obstruction that the former president has engaged in.
Yeah, well, and embedded in the Times piece is a reason offered for how and why this obstruction gets more flagrant as time goes on. Yep. Effectively, that Trump viewed the conclusion of the Mueller investigation as vindication of his behavior, which became increasingly emboldened. That he basically, I know you disagree, but he viewed, because there were no particular political implications for him, he viewed it as a vindication, and therefore the obstruction, the acts of fraud became ever more flagrant, blatant, and unchecked, it seems.
I mean, a vindication, not that we vindicated him, but in terms of, from his point of view, he had no political consequences. I would actually go back further. I mean, you have somebody who has lived for decades and has managed to skate with no consequences legally. And so this is really an unusual situation for him because he is now out of control of the situation in two courtrooms, soon to, I think, be 4 courtrooms. That is going to be an unusual experience where it's not just a civil case where he can sort of buy his way out of it because it's just talking about money. But I think it's really a lifetime. So I would go back further than just the Mueller investigation in terms of his lesson in terms of how to deal with these things.
Yeah, and the Times effectively says it's a long pattern of gamesmanship on his part with prosecutors, regulators, and others. Others being basically anyone that Trump came across in his career as a businessman. Oh, I don't know, as a husband, as a father. There's just so many levels of deception.
Right.
And it's all sort of culminating in this moment here where he's being held to account.